They wanted to make him a king, not a leader, not a president, a king. And for a moment, George Washington had the power to take it. One decision, and America would have been ruled by a crown. Absolute authority. Control over everything he had just fought to create. And the terrifying part is, he could have taken it. No one could have stopped him. The army was his. The country trusted him. History was wide open. But to understand why he refused, you have to understand the man before the power. Because nothing about his beginning suggested this ending. He was born on February 22, 1732, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. Not into royalty. Not into greatness. His father, Augustine Washington, was a plantation owner, respected, but not extraordinary. His mother, Mary Ball Washington, was strict, controlling, deeply religious. She didn't raise a dreamer. She raised discipline. And then, in 1743, when George was just 11 years old, his father died. No preparation, no guidance left behind, just pressure. The kind that doesn't wait for you to grow up. It forces you to. While others studied abroad, George stayed behind. No formal higher education. No elite connections handed to him. That path was gone. Instead, he learned something far more brutal: self-reliance. And in 1749, at just 16, he was already moving through the Virginia wilderness as a surveyor. Alone for days, mapping land no one had touched. No roads, no safety. Every decision mattered. Every mistake could mean getting lost, or worse. This wasn't a career choice, it was transformation. This is where he became controlled. Observant, calculated, not loud, not emotional, but steady. Then came the first real test of that steadiness. In 1753, at just 21, he was sent into the Ohio Valley, territory claimed by the French. His mission was simple on paper: deliver a message demanding they leave. In reality, it was a gamble with death. Winter conditions, hostile land, armed forces that had no reason to respect a young colonial officer. Washington went anyway. He crossed frozen rivers, navigated forests that swallowed men whole, delivered the message face to face, and came back alive. That alone made him different. But it also placed him directly in the path of something much bigger. War. The French and Indian War erupted in 1754, and Washington didn't watch from a distance. He stepped into it. Early on, he built Fort Necessity, a defensive position that quickly collapsed under pressure. Surrounded, outnumbered, he was forced to surrender. It could have ended his reputation before it even began. Instead, it hardened him. Because a year later, in 1755, everything changed. British forces, led by General Edward Braddock, marched confidently into what they believed would be a controlled engagement. It wasn't. It was an ambush. Gunfire erupted from unseen positions. Soldiers fell instantly. Formation collapsed. Panic spread faster than orders. And in the middle of that chaos, Washington. Not hiding, not retreating, moving through it. Coordinating what remained. Trying to hold something together that was already breaking apart. 2 horses were shot from beneath him. His coat was pierced by bullets, 4 clean holes, and somehow not a single one touched his body. Men noticed. They didn't call it luck. They called it something else. From that moment, Washington carried an aura, not of invincibility, but of presence. When things fell apart, he didn't. After the war, he returned to Virginia, but he wasn't the same man who had left. And then, in 1759, he did something that had nothing to do with war, and everything to do with power. He married Martha Dandridge Custis, a widow, wealthy, established, already rooted in a world he was still climbing toward. This wasn't just companionship, this was elevation. With her came land, influence, status that couldn't be earned on a battlefield. Mount Vernon changed. Not just a home anymore, but a center of control, a place where his name started to carry weight beyond rank or uniform. And with that life came responsibility of a different kind. He didn't inherit her children. He chose them. John Parke Custis, Martha Parke Custis. No blood tying them to him. Only decision. Only commitment. For a moment, everything slowed down. No gunfire, no orders, no chaos, just structure, routine, control. It looked like he had found his place, not in history, but outside of it. But this kind of stability does something dangerous. It makes you visible, and men who learn how to build control in silence are the same men history pulls back in when everything begins to fall apart. And it would. Soon. After stepping into a new life at Mount Vernon, he didn't disappear. He moved into power a different way. From 1759 to 1774, George Washington sat in the Virginia House of Burgesses, not as a loud voice, not as a radical, but as something far more controlled. Watching, listening, learning how power actually works when it isn't on a battlefield. And while he built that life, Britain, the empire he had once served, began tightening its grip on the colonies. Taxes increased. Control expanded. Decisions were made across an ocean by people who would never live with the consequences. Washington didn't explode in anger. He observed, measured, calculated. But inside, something was changing. He had seen power in action. He had seen what happened when it lost balance. So when tensions finally snapped in 1775 and war broke out between the colonies and Britain, Washington didn't hesitate. On June 14, 1775, the Continental Army was formed. Days later, he was chosen to lead it. Not because he was the most brilliant strategist, not because he had an undefeated record, but because he was something far more valuable, reliable under pressure. What he inherited wasn't an army. It was a fragile idea. Untrained soldiers, no real funding, shortages of everything, and across from them, the most powerful military force on Earth. The British Empire. The early war proved exactly how uneven the fight was. In New York, 1776, lost. Retreat after retreat, men deserting, morale collapsing. At any point, this could have ended. At any point, Washington could have stepped away, and history would have understood. But instead, he did something that changed everything. In December 25, 1776, at the Delaware River. Frozen, dark, silent. Washington led his men across in the middle of the night. No guarantee of success, no room for error. If they failed, the revolution died right there. But they didn't fail. They struck Trenton. Fast, unexpected, controlled victory. Not a massive one, but enough. Enough to prove something critical. This war wasn't over. From that moment, everything shifted, not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily. Through brutal winters like Valley Forge in 1777, 1778, where men froze and starved, Washington didn't abandon them. He stayed, rebuilt, trained, turned weakness into discipline with the help of Baron von Steuben. And slowly, the army became real. By 1781, the end was in sight. Yorktown. British General Cornwallis trapped. French forces supporting Washington. A coordinated strike. And finally, surrender. The war was effectively over. America had won. And now came the most dangerous moment of all. Not war, power. Washington stood at the center of it. The army respected him. The country depended on him. There was no strong government yet. No clear future. And voices began to rise. Make him king. Stability required it. Control demanded it. History expected it. Every revolution before had ended this way. One strong man, taking control. And Washington knew it. He understood exactly what was being offered. On December 23rd, 1783, he made his decision. He resigned, walked away from power, voluntarily. No force, no pressure, just choice. King George III himself reportedly said that if Washington truly gave up power like that, he would be the greatest man in the world. But even then, the story wasn't finished. Because in 1789, when the new government formed, there was only one man people trusted to lead it: Washington. Unanimously elected the first president of the United States. No precedent, no blueprint. Everything he did would define the role forever. And still, he remained controlled. He served 2 terms, from April 30, 1789 to March 4, 1797. He was elected in 1789 and 1792, establishing crucial precedents for the presidency, including the cabinet system, before retiring after his 2nd term. Balanced authority without abusing it. Avoided becoming what he had fought against. And then, once again, he walked away. He stepped down, peacefully, voluntarily, setting a standard no one had ever seen before. In December 1799, at Mount Vernon, his life came to an end. A sudden throat infection, rapid decline, no dramatic final speech, no desperate grasp at legacy, just acceptance. His final words were simple: "'Tis well," and that was it. The man who could have been king walked away, not because he had to, because he chose to. And that decision built a country that didn't need one.